bury you.
Yeah. I mean, tensions, it's really quite a miracle that the Cold War never spilled over into a hot war.
Yeah.
I think everyone was aware of just what was at stake, that once you started a nuclear war, that was the end of everything.
Now, we had the nukes. The Soviets did not. Why didn't we use them when we needed the muscle?
Well, that's an interesting question. So, of course, the first atomic bomb had been developed in 1945, and when Truman came to Germany, came to Berlin to meet Stalin and Churchill in 1945, he told Stalin, we have developed a weapon of unbelievable power and force. And Stalin, he just sort of said, great, why don't you use it against Japan, which of course
we did.
was the case. But Truman was rather surprised that, Stalin was not more inquisitive about this weapon.
Probably didn't believe him, huh?
No, quite the contrary. It's because his spies had already informed him. He knew all about it. Because his spies had already infiltrated New Mexico and everything that was going on down there. So, in fact, it was not news to him. He knew about it already. And, of course, he was desperate to get his own bomb. He had Soviet atomic scientists working on it round the clock to try and develop their own bomb. And, of course, just like the Americans, he was in a race to capture, basically kidnap, as many German scientists as possible and take them off to the Soviet Union to use them on the Soviet nuclear program.
When the Soviets developed their first atomic bomb in 1949, so we basically had 4 years to try to contain them and threaten them, but we never did.
Yes, and this was the period which we'll talk about in a second is of the blockade and the airlift, where really America and Britain on one side were almost on a full-scale conflict with the Soviet Union, and yes, they certainly could have used a nuclear weapon against the Soviet Union there, but my goodness, what would that have sparked? And I think everyone was aware that it would spiral out of control, and no one could predict how it might end.
The blockade was what, a year long or something like that?
Exactly. So what happened is really what President Truman and what Churchill had feared all along is that the Stalin cut the road and rail links to Berlin. So the Western powers, the Americans and British and their garrison troops inside Berlin were cut off, basically. They could get nothing in from Western Germany, no food, no supplies, no fuel, nothing. They were sitting there like they were kind of locked up in a little castle, basically, with nothing could come in and out. This presented a massive problem, which Colonel Frank Howling Mad Howley had to address head on. What are we going to do? There was only one answer, really, and that was to try and fly in supplies into Berlin. All the supplies that were needed, not only for the garrison troops, but also for 2.5 million Berliners.
Let's talk about the airlift, Giles. We're going to take a break here at the top of the hour. We'll talk about that airlift, and then we'll take calls in our final hour with you next on Coast to Coast AM.
Find out more about tonight's guest. Log on to coasttocoastam.com.
Hey, if you're wasted, what are you doing going on television?
Or the radio, for that matter.
Or the radio, for that matter.
Jerry and Jen, weekdays at 10 a.m. on KFI.
What's the first thing you think of when you hear Morongo? Good times, right? My work here is done. And now the top 5 reasons to visit Morongo. Number 5.
It's easy peasy to pay with points. You can get gas, gifts, and even a meal at Cielo with your rewards points.
Number 4.
American Traveler Giveaway. Get a spacious duffel travel bag when you earn 500 points on the rewards card the 19th or 20th.
3.
National Ice Cream Day is this week. Pop into Pink Coffee for house-made gelato today and make every day a Sunday.
Number 2.
Summertime at Sage Spa. A massage? Oh yes. A signature facial? Oh my. Or mani-pedi? I can't decide. Let's do them all.
And the number 1 reason.
How about 4,000 slots and 80 table games? That enough reasons? Yeah, I thought so.
Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Morongo. Good times.
The following is based on a true story.
Richard, this can't be happening. Friends are coming over this evening and the sink is clogged.
Okay, let me try the hose down the trap trick.
Still backing up.
Maybe if I plunge the sink.
No bueno.
Great. Now what?
Look, a Mike Diamond truck. Go flag him down.
Wait! Smell good, plumber! I need help!
Unfortunately, I'm on another job. Call 1-800-446-MIKE. They'll get someone out quick.
Wow, that was quick. That was a severe clog, Richard, but you're unclogged now. You unclogged our drain and saved our party for $99. You're great. You smell great. I love you guys.
You'll find more stories like this one at MikeDiamond.com. Contractor license number 399170.
I'm Mike Diamond. I guarantee my plumbers will show up on time and unclog your drain for $99.
KFI AM 640.
If it doesn't affect you, we're not interested. KFI AM 640 Los Angeles, Orange County.
And KOST HD2.
It's 5 a.m. What did you miss?
It's time for Wake Up Call with Jennifer Jones Lee.
Well, good morning. Ready for another hot one? Yeah, I'd love to tell you, we're going to cool down today. Nah, doesn't look like now until tomorrow. I told you, Mother Nature and I are going to have words. This lady's been on a terror lately. Here's what's just ahead on your wake-up call. Well, speaking of Mother Nature, apparently Southern California has stored up enough water to avoid being listed under the governor's drought emergency proclamation. I'm going to talk about some of the fires that are going on all over the West as well. Some beaches have been closed because of a raw sewage spill into the Pacific Ocean near Playa del Rey. And a judge has ruled that Governor Newsom can't put the Democratic Party affiliation on the ballot next to his name for the recall election. Ooh, and speaking of the recall, did you hear that a conservative radio talk show host joined the race? He's a solid name. I don't really know how big his following is, but he's a name you've heard of. I'll tell you who it is. Coming up at 5:05, we'll talk with ABC's Karen Travers. The other president, or let's see. So now President Biden has laid out, at least he's making comments about Cuba. Although he hasn't actually laid out a formal plan for what to do about Cuba, President Biden did say yesterday that he stood with the protesters who were demanding freedom and called them remarkable. And then he just briefly touched on Haiti. We'll tell you what he had to say about that country and what's going on there as well. So all of the president's remarks coming up with Karen in just a few minutes. Let's start with some of these stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. So you've got record heat combined with extreme drought, and boom, there you get the wildfires all across 10 western states. ABC's Andrew Dimbert says thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes because of these fires.
In southern Oregon, the bootleg fire has been threatening a major power grid that connects Oregon and California.
That fire has been doubling in size every day for the last 3 days. I have not yet seen that we will have another flex alert for today, even though we had one yesterday because of the power disruption that we were getting from Oregon. If that changes, though, I'll let you know. Southern California has saved up enough water to make up for a lack of rainy days.
Think of it as a water portfolio, just like a financial portfolio.
Metropolitan Water District Water Resource Manager Brad Coffey says the region pulls water from Sierra runoff in the north to Rocky runoff from the Colorado.
We also have lots of storage, so that in these dry years, we can draw from that storage.
And LADWP Assistant Director of Water Resources, DeLon Kwan, says people are better at conservation.
You're looking at about 17% reduction from where we were back in 2013, 2014.
So far, 50 of the state's 58 counties are included in the emergency drought proclamation. Chris Ancarlo, KFI News.
Sewage from a water treatment plant has been flushed down the wrong pipes in Playa del Rey.
It ended up spewing into the ocean and forced the closure of swim areas at Dockweiler, El Segundo, and Grand Avenue Storm Drain. The LA County Health Department says it installed signs yesterday around the affected beaches and says the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant discharged approximately 17 million gallons of unfiltered sewage through pipes that extend 1 to 5 miles into the ocean. Officials say the affected beaches will stay closed until water samples are confirmed negative for elevated bacteria. The testing results are expected to be available by tomorrow. Steve Gregory, Kfi News.
The LA County Health Officer says his office is investigating 55 outbreaks of the COVID-19 virus in the workplace, 11 of which are not related to healthcare or first responders. Health officials say they're a little concerned about the constant rise in cases, especially among young people. 80% of all new cases are those under 50. Most of the cases in LA County are the highly contagious Delta variant. The state's public health department has changed its COVID-19 rules for public schools. All teachers and students will have to wear masks indoors, but they won't have to social distance. I just want to know when this change came. What was it exactly that made the state's public health department go, okay, you know what? The CDC guidance where kids don't have to wear masks and teachers don't have to wear masks when they're indoors, we're not going to change that part quite yet, but they won't have to social distance. Now, the department says social distancing in class would have been hard for some schools, so the modified rules will mean as many students as possible can attend full-time in-person instruction. I still want to know what made the change. And federal officials say a nerve disorder could be a rare complication from getting the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine.
Officials saying the single shot may increase the risk of the rare disease, Guillain-Barré syndrome, where your body's immune system attacks the nerves. The CDC reporting about 100 cases under investigation out of nearly 13 million doses.
ABC's Kaylee Hartung says most of the reactions were detected in men 50 and older about 2 weeks after the vaccination. The FDA has issued a warning saying there is a connection between the vaccine and the disorder, but there's not enough information to show that the vaccine directly causes the disorder. When we come back, we'll talk with ABC's Karen Travers about President Biden's plan or lack thereof with Cuba, but at least he is saying that he supports the protesters who are demanding freedom. But what does that mean? Where do we go from here? We'll talk about Cuba and Haiti coming up in just a second. Right now, let's take a look at your drive. Hi, Nick. What's up on the 10 in Upland?
Hey, JJL. It is a big mess for your drive. Started around 2:15 this morning, westbound side of the 10 before Euclid in Upland. It's a crash. Only the far right lane is open. Your drive is packed and tight from as far back as Haven as you're making your way westbound along the 10. Definitely plan for the 210 westbound. Looks good for your drive right now off the 15 as you continue through the Rancho Cucamonga and Altaloma area. Continuing further westbound on the 210. And same story for the 60 west for the moment. Out of Ontario off the 15 as you make your way toward Chino and the 71. Not seeing any major problems for you there. Also, Foothill Boulevard or Baseline at Silver Street alternates are looking pretty decent for your drive. Got an update on this or anything else slowing you down? Pound 250 on your cell phone. Keyword is KFI traffic. Kind of patchy for your drive through Corona right now. Westbound side of the 91 seeing stretches of slowing for you off the 15 as you make your way toward the 241 toll road. KFI and the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Nick Poliokini.
5:06 on your wake-up call. Karen Travers, good morning to you. So let's talk about what the president has said so far about Cuba. I know that you had Senator Marco Rubio very upset, saying that the president hadn't done enough, if anything, when it came to the unrest that's happening in Cuba right now. Yesterday, the president addressed this. So what did he say?
Yeah, the president, before giving remarks about guns and crime prevention, the president said he wanted to talk about Cuba and said that the Cuban people are demanding their freedom from an authoritarian regime. He said the U.S. stands firmly with the people of Cuba as they assert their universal rights, and he called on the government of Cuba to refrain from violence and any attempts to silence the voice of the people there. We asked questions of the president. I was in the room yesterday when he made those brief remarks, and he said that he would have more to say about Cuba as the week goes on. And that was a similar sentiment we heard from Press Secretary Jen Psaki. A lot of questions yesterday, including whether there would be an update on the administration's review of U.S.-Cuba policy, which is ongoing since he took office. There was no policy shift to offer or anything to predict, but did say that was still under review. And that would include any potential change to economic sanctions against Cuba. The questions we tried to get the president to answer yesterday, he did not answer, but said maybe he'd talk about it more later this week.
All right, that's exactly what I was thinking is, what sort of sanctions will be put on them. So I know he's getting some heat or at least pressure from Marco Rubio. He's also getting Miami's Cuban-American Mayor Francis Suarez says he too stands with the protesters in Cuba.
What they are seeing is their family members being beaten, an inability for them to communicate, And it's a very, very difficult situation.
So you know that he's probably feeling pressure from him as well. Any leader.
Yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely. And of course, this is a very politically charged issue in election years and always. And yesterday, there were questions about some of the criticism or the arguments from the Cuban president that it's the longstanding U.S. embargo that's contributing to the economic stresses and concerns that so many of these Cuban people are protesting against. Jen Psaki yesterday pushed back strongly on that, saying that the embargo does allow for humanitarian goods to reach Cuba, and that the U.S. expedites any requests for that, including medical supplies. So taking issue with sort of the blame that was being placed on the United States by Cuban political leaders. But again, in terms of any potential changes to economic sanctions, there was nothing that Jen Psaki was going to announce yesterday.
When it comes to Haiti, what so far has the president said about what's going on there following the assassination of the president of Haiti?
There was a high-level delegation from different government agencies, departments that traveled to Haiti over the weekend to meet with political officials, to meet with law enforcement officials. The president was briefed on that visit yesterday, and he gave very brief remarks and said that the people of Haiti deserve peace and security, and that Haiti's political leaders need to come together. He did not get into any more details than that, but at the briefing, Jen Psaki was asked about sending U.S. troops to help with the security situation there. She said that it's still under review, and it has not yet been ruled out.
All right. Thanks, Karen, for the update on both topics. I'll talk to you again soon.
Have a great day. Thanks.
See you later. ABC's Karen Travers. I know that after she said that the U.S. troops going to Haiti has not yet been ruled out, she followed with, "This is just the beginning of our conversations." This is Jen Psaki. "We will remain in close touch with law enforcement, with individuals in Haiti, with a range of leaders in Haiti, about how we can assist and provide assistance moving forward." And I think that one of the things there is people are concerned about sort of a more broad humanitarian crisis in Haiti and a possible flood of refugees into neighboring countries. Could we see some of the Haitians come here? Possibly. But I think that there are a lot more issues than just what's going on within the government in Haiti, obviously. And where it stands from a humanitarian aspect, I'll be interested to see how the president looks at that. Can he separate the two? Can you separate the U.S. forces going there versus are they on a more soldier-style mission, I guess? Or are they on a more humanitarian-style mission? Should they be sent? Again, still have not. But that'll be an interesting one. All right, let's get back to some of these stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. A judge has ruled Governor Newsom can't put the Democratic Party affiliation on the ballot for the recall election. Attorney Eric Early tells John and Ken that the ruling could affect how many votes Newsom gets.
If he doesn't have a D next to his name on the ballot, those automatic votes he would normally get from a lot of people who vote just Democrats, he may lose.
But do you not know that Gavin Newsom is a Democrat if you live in California? If you live anywhere in the world, do you not know that? Newsom's campaign missed a deadline last year to submit his affiliation. How do you do that? It's like putting gas in the car, isn't it? The deadline is part of a state election law to allow officials involved in a recall to list their party on the ballot. Newsom signed the law in 2019. It was his own law. Conservative radio host Larry Elder has entered the recall race against Governor Newsom. Elder says the state's homelessness crisis, an increase in crime, and pandemic restrictions encouraged him to run. This will be Elder's first political campaign. I mean, he's another name, at least. You're going to have conservatives now saying, okay, that's another name. Does he have enough to... I don't know. I don't know. I still don't think he's got a big enough following to beat Newsom, but I don't know. The person who ran over a man in Diamond Bar and killed him has been driving around on the loose. Bruce Bodell was hit while crossing the street on the 4th of July.
I hope that anybody around you that knows your car, that knows that something happened that night, say something. Because, I mean, what if it was your uncle? What if it was your brother? I mean, what if it ends up being a child in the street next?
Jessica Bodell says her uncle was in the hospital for 4 days with shattered legs and a broken spine before he finally died. LA County Sheriff's deputies are on the lookout for a silver two-door car with heavy front-end damage and possibly a broken windshield. Jury selection set to start today in the federal trial of former political donor Ed Buck. He's accused of 9 felony charges, including providing methamphetamine to 2 men who overdosed and died in his apartment in West Hollywood. It's alleged Buck lured homeless gay men to his place and gave them drugs in exchange for sex. He's been held in downtown lockup since being arrested in September 2019. Prosecutors reportedly want to amend their case against the man from San Pedro charged with murdering a college classmate in 1996. The LA Times reports San Luis Obispo County prosecutors are looking at 2 sexual assaults that happened in San Pedro, where Paul Flores lived between 2013 and 2017. Prosecutors have alleged Flores killed Kristen Smart while raping her in his college dorm in 96. She hasn't been seen since Memorial Day weekend that year. Flores has pleaded not guilty to the murder. Nominations for the Emmy Awards will be announced this morning, but there have been some rule changes to what programs can be nominated. Shows that have been nominated for an Oscar are not eligible for an Emmy, and any non-documentary film being considered for an Oscar will be regarded as a theatrical motion picture and ineligible for the Emmys. Okay. Cedric the Entertainer will host the Emmy Awards in September. All right, when we come back, we'll talk with ABC's Tom Rivers. So, interesting plea from the World Health Organization asking richer countries not to order more COVID-19 vaccines for booster shots. And the hope is to let poorer countries just get those initial vaccinations to their people. So Tom will have more on what the WHO is asking. And coming up, it's your chance to win $1,000. Right now, let's take a look at your drive problems. Continue on the 10 in Upland.
It's a mess for your drive, really seeing things packed in tight for you. Heading westbound before Euclid, it's an ongoing fatality crash investigation. Only the far right lane is open. 10 west before Euclid in the Upland area, and you're seeing a rough ride as you come away from Haven. So again, plan for either Surface Street to Baseline or Foothill Boulevard. You could even use Mission Boulevard as a Surface Street alternate to help save some time this morning. Or plan for the 210 or 60 west as alternates. Now, 210 west is still around, starting to get a little busy for you from Haven as you make way toward campus. And the 60 westbound starting to see a few delays for you as you make way from about the 15 kind of passing for your drive toward Vineyard. Westbound 91 Riverside to Corona passing delays as well. Overall, from before La Sierra, almost as far back as Tyler as you make your way toward Green River. KFI and the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Nick Poliokini.
This report is sponsored by Molina Healthcare. For the health coverage you need close to home, lean on Molina Healthcare. Molina has 40 years of experience and covers preventive services, prescription drugs, maternity and newborn care, and more. For details, go to leanonmolina.com. Get the care you need. Lean on Molina.
This is Dan Patrick. Here's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network, presented by Mercedes-AMG.
Pete Alonso defended his crown by winning back-to-back home run derbies. The Mets sluggers defeated the Orioles' first baseman, Trey Mancini, in the final round. Shohei Ohtani hit 28 moonshots, but was bounced in round 1 by Juan Soto. The Angels superstar will make All-Star history tonight for being a starting pitcher and leadoff hitter. And ESPN's Stephen A. Smith apologized for saying Ohtani can't be the face of baseball because he needs an interpreter. I'm Misty Jordan.
What's the difference between an AMG skeptic and an AMG believer? A split second. The time it takes to fire up the ignition, step on the gas, and hear that gutsy engine roar. Go to MBUSA.com/AMG. Mercedes-AMG driving performance.
Rates subject to change without notice. Minimum loan amount requirements apply. 50% loan to value and 620 FICO credit score. Certain restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. NMLS 3290. Loans made or arranged pursuant to a California Finance Lenders Law License number 6036970. Equal housing lender.
All right, I want you to think to yourself, what's something around your house, something big that you would love to do? Maybe flooring or a roof, or you need new pipes or something like that. And you thought, gosh, I really need that, but I need some money to do it. Hey, I could get a home loan, but, oh wait, I probably don't qualify. I bet you haven't called IntelliLoan. Wake up, they have these great home loan rates that are for people who just have meh credit or are self-employed. Whatever your situation is, I bet you IntelliLoan can help you get that great home loan that you need. Right now, IntelliLoan is offering a 1.99% APR with no points or lender fees, and this is even if your credit score is 620. A 1.99% APR with no points or lender fees, even if you've got that credit score of 620, and you're thinking to yourself, I really need that new floor, I really need that new roof. Well, call IntelliLoan and find out how to get it. Call IntelliLoan before the rates go up. Call them at 1-800-918-6200. That's 1-800-918-6200. Or just go to intellalone.com.
Intellalone. Borrow smart.
Everyone is sweating out the summer right now. High temperatures, no relief in sight. Oh, wait, except for me. I switched to SolarMax years ago.
How much have you saved since you switched?
Thousands, probably. Let's just say my energy bills are so low now, I am no longer the thermostat warrior in my house. My air conditioning is almost free.
SolarMax is where you want to go because SolarMax does everything themselves right here in Southern California, which means exceptional quality control and no middleman.
That's right. You can get a SolarMax system for only $69.98 a month. And that includes a solar panel system and a home battery with an APR as low as 0.99%.
This offer expires July 31st. You even named your solar panels.
I did. They've each got individual little names, like Akbar and Dylan and Barbara. Call pound 250 from your cell phone. Say the keyword SolarMax. That's pound 250, keyword SolarMax. Or go to SolarMaxTech.com, SolarMaxTech.com. Monthly payment available on approved credit. See SB number 972040.
When it comes to the tools in your garage, it's all about lithium-ion. Plenty of power, maximum efficiency, and a longer life. Introducing Novalift lithium-ion powered forklifts. All the power and efficiency you need and essentially maintenance-free. With a dramatic savings in overall cost of ownership, Novalift forklifts pay for themselves over time, and that increases your bottom line. Novalift, revolutionizing the material handling industry one job at a time. What's in your warehouse? Contact us today for a cost analysis at novaliftna.com/save.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
When it comes to the ins and outs of business security, Bay Alarm brings the best, like access control systems to protect your people and your property. Because if your security is not the best, you're not secure. Now, more than ever, Bay Alarm. ACO 28CCL 880138.
Hey, it's John and Ken from Kfi Am 640. If you haven't downloaded the free iHeartRadio app yet, now's the perfect time. Because for the first time ever, all free users can create unlimited playlists. iHeartRadio makes it super easy to create playlists for any mood or occasion. And here's one way to get started. Just grab a song playing on your favorite station and start a playlist with that. Easiest of all, it's totally free. Add as many songs, create as many playlists, all for free. Number one for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one app. iHeartRadio. A bonnet staffer is upset that a homeless person is sleeping in front of her door, making a lot of distracting noise. Which I think probably 8,000 of her constituents have called in to complain about. But she's bothered by one guy? One guy, and she writes a memo saying, hey, can we do something about this guy?
John and Ken, weekdays at 2.
Can you believe this?
On KFI.
Just like fire,
AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Welcome to a Tuesday. I'm glad you're here with me. Thank you. I'm Jennifer Jones-Lee, and some of the stories we're watching in the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Look at you, SoCal. Apparently, we have stored up enough water to avoid being listed under the governor's drought emergency proclamation. Metropolitan Water District Water Resource Manager Brad Coffey says the region taps into water from Northern California and the Colorado River, along with local sources. He says the region's reservoirs and groundwater basins were filled with stored water as the state fell back into drought. Governor Newsom declared a drought emergency in 50 of the state's 58 counties. Speaking of the governor, a judge has ruled that Governor Newsom can't put the party affiliation Democrat on the ballot for the recall election. Newsom's campaign missed a deadline to submit his affiliation. The deadline is part of a state election law to allow officials involved in a recall to list their party on the ballot. Newsom signed that into law in 2019. 5:35, we're going to talk about voting rights. And specifically, I want to look at what's going on in Texas. This is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. You have House Democrats walking out of the Texas legislature yesterday because they're going over this new round of restrictive voting laws. Those Democrats headed to D.C. on a plane that Fox News is reporting was, and I quote, stocked with beer. And now you've got Texas Governor Abbott threatening to arrest those lawmakers when they come back to Texas. You can't make this stuff up. And I can't make up, it's your chance right now to win $1,000.
KFI has your chance to win $1,000.
Text the nationwide keyword
Dollar, D-O-L-L-A-R,
to 200-200.
You'll get a confirmation text and info.
Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest.
That's dollar to 200-200.
And if you win all of those dollars, then you are going to get a call from a number that you don't recognize. Please pick it up. I want you to win. Your next chance to win comes at 7:20 here on KFI. Right now, let's say good morning to ABC's Tom Rivers. Hey, Tom, so we've got kind of an interesting plea from the World Health Organization when it comes to richer countries and getting COVID-19 vaccines, specifically the shots that would be used for boosters.
Exactly, Jim. It's kind of a variation on the theme. We've kind of heard similar things for the past few months. Certainly the language here in the UK, the US, and certainly on the continent in Europe. We're talking now boosters because, for instance, in the UK, single shots now among adults, we're looking at about 87%. Full vaccination, 2 shots here in the UK, 66%. So, a lot of talk as well in the fall, we're going to have to get some boosters. And, the WHO officials in Geneva looking at this saying, your view's a bit blinkered. They say, look, there's going to be mutations out there that's going to happen in countries where they have very little or no vaccine. And be mindful, everyone's talking about Delta today. What variant that they're going to be talking about in 6 months? Who knows? So there's going to be a different one out there. So they're saying, don't, focus on the boosters now. You're doing a good job. Think of shipping some of this vaccine that does work from the names you and I know. You get it out to the far-flung corners of the world, get other people vaccinated.
And I wonder how, so 2 things. I looked at this and I thought, okay, so you've got, let's look at just the United States. You've got a rich country like the United States. As of last night, I saw that the number was 48.5% of the population was vaccinated. We've talked with a lot of health officials about we might be at the downside of a plateau where the people who want to get vaccinated have gotten vaccinated, and there are those who have vaccine hesitancy for whatever the case may be, even if it's a health reason, whatever it is. This may be as good as it gets. We had stories earlier of our vaccines sitting on the shelf expiring because there were places that, smaller communities where everybody got the vaccine who wanted it. So you wonder, why would we order more vaccines if we didn't have a population that wanted it anyway?
Well, that's a good point. I was on the station a couple of weeks ago in Ohio, the same thing. I think I forget which one it was. It might have been Johnson & Johnson, but they said, look, that's expired. And there should be a mechanism where, if you're a state, if you're a country, saying, look, we kind of use everything up we're going to have, and we've got, fill in the blank. We've got 1.3 million doses sitting here, but they got to be used in a month. Can you find a place to use them? Those kinds of logistics seemingly are not out there. It is not joined up thinking globally. So yeah, that is one issue that needs to be looked at. And it's common sense. If you're not going to use it, don't destroy it. Get it on a plane and get it to somebody who can use it.
And I understand that there are all kinds of transport issues because certain vaccines have to be at certain temperatures.
Sure.
Is wherever you're taking them going to have the facilities to store the vaccines? I get all of that. But it just seems counterintuitive, or it feels gluttonous for us to have literally doses expiring on the shelves when these poorer countries can't get the doses, period.
Well, I'm totally with you. Some countries will have the facility, okay, and that's ship it there.
Yeah.
If you got a country that doesn't have the infrastructure, okay, well then we have to figure out a different solution there.
Yeah.
These are kind of basic, logic-free questions that should be asked, and we're just almost a year and a half down the road here, and they're still being, unanswered. Us humans are not doing a very good job of this one.
I agree, Tom. All right, thanks so much. I'm sure I'll talk to you again very soon.
Take care.
Thanks. See you later. ABC's Tom Rivers. You like that? Us humans are not doing a very good job. Ain't that the truth? All right, let me get you a few more stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Registered nurses at Keck Hospital of USC and USC North Cancer Hospital are set to start a 2-day strike. Their union says they're protesting about what they claim are unsafe staffing conditions. Keck medicine officials say they're disappointed the union has called the strike after more than 40 bargaining sessions and recently reaching a tentative agreement. The Cal State University system has partnered with Apple for a program that will give free iPads to about 35,000 first-year and transfer students. The school system says the program is an effort to increase equity in education. Students at 8 campuses will get an iPad Air Pencil, and an Apple Smart Keyboard. The kids will keep the equipment throughout their time at school. Well, American dudes are apparently losing their bros.
A new poll says the number of men in the U.S. who say they have at least 6 close friends has dropped by more than half. The American Perspective Survey says 55% of guys said they had a half a dozen tight buds in 1990, but only about 27% said they had that many just a couple months ago. Having even one close friend has dropped, with 77% of men saying they had one in 1990 compared to only 59% now. The survey also says Americans are now more likely to make friends at work than any other way. Michael Crozier, KFI News.
In a way, that makes sense to me. If not only in my house. Scott literally said to me a couple of weeks ago, "We need more friends." And I looked at him like he had 3 eyes. What? And he goes, "Yeah. You know, we don't get together with that many people." Okay, I don't know if anybody's been on my Instagram recently. We just had a giant party for the 4th of July with our friends. Some from work, some neighbors, some from his work, some just friends of friends. But I looked at this and I thought, oh my God, our group of friends is gigantic. How lucky are we? And all he saw was we had one get-together where people came over, but how often do we actually go out with those particular couples? Like to dinner or that sort of thing. And the more we kind of got in a conversation about it, and I said, man, my friend Maria's coming down next week, and she's bringing her daughter. And then, you know, I was just talking to another friend of mine, like, hey, we should do a girls' weekend, blah, blah, blah. Guys, at least my husband and his buddies, don't do that. They text each other occasionally, that kind of thing. But I wonder if it's just different. You know, as we are just women more social creatures, and we talk to each other, and we gossip, and all that kind of stuff. I'm being very, very stereotypical, but I'm basically explaining me. Scott's not like that. He'll touch base with his buddies occasionally and see how everything's going. I don't know, I think that's an interesting thing. But just think about it. In your relationship, one of you might be more connected with friends than the other one is, but you're different people. You work differently, you know? I don't know. Maybe it's not that big a deal. All right, when we come back, we'll talk with ABC's Sarah Isker all about, I want to focus on Texas and what in the world is going on there when it comes to this new round of restricting voting laws that Democrats have said, at least in the House, there in Texas, we're not even going to talk about this. In fact, we're not even going to be in the state when y'all are talking about this. It's a good one. All right, Nick, what's going on now on the 91?
In Riverside on the westbound side, Jen, it's going to be kind of patchy overall from before Tyler as you make your way past Green River. Definitely give yourself a little extra time getting out the door this morning. Once you make your way through the Santa Ana Canyon, though, continuing through Orange County toward the 55, looks like a much better drive. Back to Upland and a mess for your drive on the westbound side of the 10 before Euclid. Still only the far right lane is open. That's due to an ongoing fatality crash investigation from around 2:15 this morning. Westbound side of the 10 packed and tight for you leaving Haven. 60 west is an alternate. That's still going for you now off the 15 toward almost Euclid. And you'll see delays further westbound on the 60 from Ramona Avenue through Chino into the 71. 210 westbound is an alternate to the 10 west. Going to be heavy as well for your drive in stretches from about Day Creek through Ranch Cucamonga and out to Loma toward campus. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Nick Poliokini.
If you own a business and pay payroll taxes for 5 or more employees, there's a new government program that will rebate you up to $20,000 cash for employees. Problem is, how do you get hold of that money? Does your accountant know about this? Probably not. This isn't what accountants do. But InnovationRefunds.com does do this. InnovationRefunds.com got me and my partner a six-figure refund. They know what they're doing. Their CPAs know exactly how to access these tax rebates. They do all the legwork, no upfront costs, and what they do is simply share a percentage of the cash they get back for you. InnovationRefunds.com has helped over 6,000 businesses, including mine, get some $450 million back. Remember, up to $20,000 per employee. Go to InnovationRefunds.com, click on the Qualify Me button, answer a few questions. InnovationRefunds.com, no risk, pretty high reward. InnovationRefunds.com.
SoCal weather from KFI. We've got one more hot one, it looks like. So today, highs at the beaches will be in the low to mid 70s. What looks like will be in the mid to upper 80s for Metro LA and OC. And for the valleys in the IE, again in the 90s and low 100s. But hopefully everybody will be back into at least just the 90s by tomorrow. We lead local, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Jennifer Jones-Lee.
Small business owners know cutting costs without cutting quality is tough. How do you trim expenses without hurting your business? Easy. Get Spectrum Business. Call 888-489-2212. Switch to Spectrum Business and you can get the best internet and phone services for half of what you're paying today. Cutting costs can be easy when you get Spectrum Business. Just call 888-489-2212. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
All right, you just heard the weather forecast. It's another hot one today. Summer's here, and what do? You go outside, you sweat your butt off, and then you go and you reach for some water, right? But don't get it out of one of those plastic, very not eco-friendly plastic water bottles. How about just fill your favorite glass with filtered water from any tap in your house if you just had a LifeSource Whole House water system? Then you'd have clean, delicious water coming out of every faucet. And what I like is, I like to come up with any way to not have to go outside and sweat in the summer. So with a LifeSource Whole House water system, you won't have any maintenance. You won't have any filters to replace. No tanks to exchange. And hey, if